Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Notts to talk about a Notts County podcast. Finally, an episode where we can be positive off a great result. Casey, how are you feeling, mate?
Oh yeah, look, happy we got a win. Obviously, I'm very tired today. Obviously, last night was a late night, obviously getting back, but I can't complain. I'm feeling very happy. What about you?
Yeah, mate, I'm absolutely delighted. Over the moon, and we're going to get stuck into it, I think, straight away. We might as well, obviously, it's the second episode of the week. So, treating you guys to a bonus episode. First things first, we kind of mentioned it on the last pod, but we moved to a back four. How did you think that went? I think that's the starting point, isn't it? Surely to talk about.
Yeah, it paid off massively. I think it was a curveball, if you like, that was thrown in very well by Stu. Because I think everyone thought, even most of our fans thought we probably would have gone for a five at the back. But when you see Macari starting, you kind of understand that it's really not going to be Macari a right wing back. Because although he has played there previously in Ireland, I just don't think he's suited to it. I think he's more of a right back, a flat in a flat back four. It really works for us. I mean, I thought defensively last night we were excellent, and that's a massive credit to the whole back line and to the management team, really, who made the bold decision to go that way. I don't think we deserved to concede. I thought it was a very harsh penalty. It was almost like he just dropped to the floor. But, even at 3-1, we'd have ran so far with that result if we was offered it before the game. And I thought, honestly, the back four worked perfectly, and it shows that we can go to a plan B.
Yeah, 100% about the plan B. And I also wanted to ask you about Jodi Jones. Obviously, I know we can talk about his assist record, which he's now broken, and I believe he's equalled the most assists definitely since 15-16 in terms of the top four divisions in England. I saw that today. But I wanted to ask you about him playing on the right, because we've spoken about it on here, and a lot of people have, been quite vocal in saying they don't understand why he keeps playing on the right. He's got most of these assists from the left, and we completely get that. But Tuesday night showed that he can play on the right hand side. So how did you rate his performance from that side?
But I think with the situation of people complaining about him, I think when you look at it, swapping at wing back is a lot different and a lot more difficult to do than playing swapping the wings. Because for me, like on Friday night, let's go back to Friday night quickly, just for the sake of this conversation. Friday night, when we swapped wing backs, we conceded from that, and I just thought they both looked lost in their position. The cross came from the left of our side, and then was scored at the right. But I think last night it obviously just worked an absolute treat. I thought Macari looked a lot more comfortable with Jodi ahead of him. And to be fair, Jodi was a right. People forget that Jodi was a right midfielder at Coventry as well. So that's obviously something that was obviously took into consideration. And it has to be said as well, like, he didn't play there for the full game. He obviously swapped sides with Maka, and Maka got the assist for Didsey. But no, look, I mean, Jodi, he speaks for himself, really. Look, obviously a very, very good footballer with 20 assists now this season. Is he going to stop? Absolutely not. I am very excited to see what he finishes on. But the only thing I was worried about with him playing on the right was, obviously, you kind of take his left foot away. But he shut that down very quickly by getting a beautiful assist with his right foot, which, by the way, the run for that assist was just mesmerising. I just think he's a player now that he's just not going to peak this season. I just think he's just going to keep going and going and going, and that's fantastic, because I do think now we're going to start, hopefully, a good run off of this result. But you just have to see, really.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point that you raised, and I kind of wanted to mention that, and I thought I'd leave that for the pod, the point I'm going to make now, which is, because I didn't want it to come across wrong on a tweet. I know words can often be read wrong, but I think we forget that these players have had careers before Notts County, and I don't mean that in a negative way. We're all guilty of it, because obviously we see them playing week in, week out for our club, so you're going to base their position and their performance based on what they've done for us. But like you said, people forget that Jodi was a right winger for Coventry. Maka was a bit of a more of a wide forward for Gateshead. I've said that a few times on Twitter, but he was. When he joined us, it was kind of surprising that he turned into a in the box striker, because he was always running the channels for Gateshead. Macari, like you mentioned, was a right back in Ireland. These are players that have played in different positions before. So I kind of wanted to bring that up and say, look, like it, even though it seems weird to us that on paper, like seeing Maka playing left wing, it actually he's done it before. It's not alien to him, and I think he showed that with that brace. How did you rate his performance? Obviously playing slightly different position. What did you make of him playing out on the left and the right as well?
Look, you mentioned it there. He obviously was a wide forward at Gateshead, and although I don't think it's his best position, when I saw him lining up there, it didn't surprise me because it is somewhere he can play. Yes, again, I don't think it's his best position, but again, he's an option there to have. I think that the overall worry with Maka playing out wide sometimes is always going to be as impactful from that position. But again, last night, I mean, 2 goals and 1 assist, and again, another fine performance from him. And he's another player where I just don't see a ceiling. I don't see a peak this season. I just whenever you think he's on a bad run of form, a few games without a goal, he'll pop back up with a brace, and everyone will be talking about him again. And it's good to have them players. But yeah, him on the left and the right, it worked. I mean, last night, like I said, I mentioned this straight away on Twitter. Like Maynard, he called his own shots. He made a few brave decisions, and they absolutely paid off for him. And again, it just shows that there's always a favoured plan, but when it's not worked, you can change. And I don't think we saw that enough under Luke Williams. That was a big criticism of his, from my point of view, that we never saw really much of a difference. He was very stubborn, whereas Maynard's shown in the first 3 games that he can change, and when he does change, he was rewarded for his bravery. So, yeah, I mean, to play Maka out wide, brave decision, but he paid off for him. And you could say that about a lot of things last night, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. And another record that Maka might be sort of gunning for is the Notts County top scorer in the 21st century. Him and Mark Stallard are now tied on 65 goals each. So I'm assuming, hopefully, Maka will get another goal this season. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. And you mentioned change there. Another change that was made was Luca Ashby-Hammond getting his Notts County debut in goal. What did you make of his performance? Do you think it was the right decision to change the goalkeepers?
Yeah, not necessarily the right. I thought it was. I don't want to say harsh, but I just thought, if Aidan Stone could have looked at that and thought maybe like he was being solely blamed for Friday night, which was obviously not the case. But it was another again brave option from Stu to go down that route, but it paid off again. I thought Ashby Hammond was, as far as the debut goes, away at Newport, a team that naturally have been notoriously known to hit long and play for the knockdowns. In wet conditions, in quite windy conditions as well. I thought he was fantastic. Honestly, I did. I tweeted it not too long before we came on air. Actually, that I was the one thing I was so disappointed about not keeping a clean sheet was the fact that he actually genuinely deserved to keep it. And again, the penalty was so soft, and he does deserve to feel hard done by. But yeah, I mean, the decision, whether it was right or wrong, it don't really matter. It happened and it paid off. So I guess you can only look at it as the right one now. And yeah, I think I don't think he'll be losing his place in goal on Saturday. That's for sure.
The final player I wanted to mention from the game was Scott Robertson, a player that I think is turned the opinions a little bit like the management team, who I'm sure we're going to talk about as well. People sort of judge Scott Robertson after 1-2 games, and he's kind of shown a resilience already. He's had to, and he's becoming a really important player for Notts. So, again, can ask you the same question: what did you make of his performance? I know he broke up the play and helped set up one of the goals as well. Is he becoming one of our most important players?
Look, again, another player that I was quick to tweet about full time because I just genuinely loved his performance. I thought he was definitely the nitty gritty player last night in terms of the 2 in the midfield, but that looks so much better with Bostock because it gave Bostock a lot more freedom. And it's probably why we won the battle in midfield so well. Again, Newport, a big team, they're strong, physical in the tackle. It's probably why they were one of the most informed sides before Tuesday. And the midfield battle was won pretty much from minute 1 to 90, and that's credit to obviously John as well. But Scott was absolutely brilliant. He was right with what you said there, breaking up the play very well. Just last night, I just thought you saw a lot of resemblance in terms of what you want him to do. And look, he's obviously not. He's no Matty Palmer, not yet anyway, because he's been here 3 or 4 games. It's impossible for anyone to have that title just because of how important Matty is. But there was a lot of similarities between the two last night, and that's the biggest praise you can pay Scott Robertson, because so quickly he's kind of filling in that role. And look, when we first signed him, there was Fleetwood fans saying, "Oh, he's not as good as what you expected him to be." Well, if he's going to play like that last night every week, then I'm afraid we're going to be looking at some comments at the end of the season and laughing, because look, last night absolutely brilliant. And for me, if you take away Jodi's brilliance and Macca's obviously brace and assist, the most important player on the pitch last night was Robertson, because for me, when you go to places like Newport, the most important battle you have to win is the one in midfield, and he was a very big catalyst in our success of winning the battle.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more there. I think he's really grown into. I know we spoke about favourite players recently, but he's quickly becoming one of mine. I think he's the sort of player I absolutely love to see play for Notts. He's covering a lot of ground and he's doing a lot of good work. Let's just wrap up on Newport with some praise for the management team. Stuart Maynard, Matty Saunders, Craig Saunders. Obviously, they've come in. It's been a difficult start for them. They've shown some resilience already. People were saying that they should be, they should be gone after 3 games. I think we covered that last time, and it's a bit ludicrous to say that. And very quickly we're back in the playoffs now. We were out of the playoffs for literally 1 game. I don't think anyone would have seen us getting back in, but results went our way. What are your thoughts on the management team and their bravery to change things up? And obviously their bravery has paid off.
Well, I think people were right to be worried. I think I was as well. I'm not going to come on here and say, I was fully confident in what I've seen in the first 3 games, because I weren't. And again, like we said in the last episode, we don't come on here to lie. So I'm going to be honest, and I'll say, I'll hold my hands up and say, yeah, I was one of them people who were a bit worried. But after last night, I don't think anyone can be. Again, like I said previously in this episode, he showed the ability to change. He's not afraid of change. He obviously has something that he believes in, but he can drop his pride for the sake of a result, and he did last night, and he got his reward. And for me, obviously, for prime example, really, when you look at the Mansfield game, to only go there and lose 1-0 when someone went there last night and shipped 9 goals, it's hardly the worst result if you're looking at it on that reflection. And I said this last night to a group of my friends. I said, look, Wrexham away on Saturday, it's one of them games where you go and, you don't really expect much, even though we played really well last night. And if we put in the same kind of performance, I do think we could come away with a win. But you know what? The occasion's always got something. I know we're going to get into it in later on in the episode, but the occasion's always got something riding on it now, just because of last season. But I think after the Wrexham game, obviously I know Crew had a good result last night, but that doesn't matter to me in terms of when you come to Meadow Lane, it's different. And if that Notts team shows up, you won't leave with a result. It's as simple as that. I think after the Wrexham game, we enter a run where it's very favourable. I know disrespect to any team that we've got coming up. Obviously, I think after that, the next game I would look at and think, well, maybe, or I'm not sure about that, would be the Stockport game, honestly. So, massive credit to Stu last night, and he's definitely put a few doubters, a few worries minds at rest, and probably got a lot of people back on side. But I think, obviously, I hope you have. I hope you give yourself time to answer your own question, because I know, obviously, you're a big fan. You will always have been a big fan, and I think you deserve to say your piece as well.
Yeah, I think you've covered it there. Like you've said that they've got people back on side, and it's kind of sad that they've had to do that so early, get people back on side. I wish people were 100% behind them. That's just me being honest. I think that any manager, that's not because it's them, any manager that joins our football club needs more than 3 games to be judged. Like Luke Williams joined our 3 games in pre-season. Like they've joined mid-season. Of course, the first few games aren't always going to go their way. I think what you also hit the nail on the head there in terms of the run. It's looking more favourable. I think Crewe will be difficult, Stockport will be difficult, of course. But they came in at like an extremely tough time. Barrow, Mansfield, Gillingham are, no pushovers. Newport, most informed side in the division. So to weather that storm, come out the other side, it's better that we've, I would have rather it gone this way than we beat Barrow, then get a draw and then lose two. Like, it's better that we've ended that difficult run, and it's not over yet. We've still got the next two games are really tough, but we've picking momentum up rather than losing momentum. I think that's really important. I know you were there last night, and unfortunately I couldn't make it, but it was a incredible away day. Where does that rank in terms of your favourite away days? And guys, we want to hear from you as well. So if you could leave in the comments, or we'll probably put out a tweet as well. Leave your reply there or in the comments here or the Q&A section on Spotify. Your favourite away day. We'd love to hear from you. How was last night from a spectator's point of view, purely from the experience? And what are some of your favourites? Probably most of them are going to be over the last couple of seasons. Let's be honest, they've been the more positive seasons for us. But what have been some of your favourites?
Look, in terms of this season, obviously last night was probably by a landslide really the best one so far this year. We haven't won many on the road, so it's not like we have too much to pick from. But and obviously, Doncaster away at the start of the season was brilliant. But I think last night just topped it off for me, just because, again, we made so many changes and it just all seemed to work. And I think it was more just a sense of being happy for, obviously, Stu and his team, because, again, they needed that. We alluded to it a minute ago. But the one away day that always sticks with me was Grimsby when Ruben scored the 93rd minute, because it was just honest. That I've never celebrated something like that in my life, to be honest. I remember, having the 0-0 on your big day out chant, and then obviously we took the lead late on. Grimsby this season, to be fair, was obviously a roller coaster. That deserves a mention in itself. Again, we should have won that game, but to go and watch 10 goals, albeit not in the way we wanted it, but you could be a Harrogate Town fan and go and see 11 and get beat 9-2. So I guess you got to look at it and feel a bit on the better side of things. Another one for me that sticks out was obviously the Coventry playoff game. I know, obviously 1-1. We got robbed. I'm still not over it. We got robbed and never a penalty. Matt Tootle, probably still has nightmares about it, because it was injustice. It was robbery. But I will never forget when that ball hit the back of the net from Falk's back heel. That was just one of the best moments of my life, probably, today. But yeah, we've had some good ones, to be fair. But Newport last night definitely ranks up there for me, because sometimes when you look at it from a deeper side, it's not just about the occasion, it's about the performance and about what goes into the performance. And I thought everything last night was almost, if someone had made the edit of Stu's face on the masterclass photo, I wouldn't have been surprised, because it felt like a masterclass last night. But I'll throw the question back to you, mate. What's one of your most memorable away days?
Yeah, hopefully we can. I don't want to get carried away, but hopefully we can get redemption for that playoff defeat. We're back in the playoffs now. League Two playoffs obviously would be very nice to finish in those positions. And I think I've mentioned this on Twitter, and I'm putting an early shout in. I'm not saying we're going to make the playoffs, but if we do, I'd back us to make the final, because if you play two games against us in quick succession, it's quite tiring. Like, we often see teams, especially last season when we were in unreal form, you'd see a team play against us, put in the do you remember Yeovil? They got the draw against us, and then after that, I think they went on a losing run. It happened loads of times. Like, teams use so much energy against us when we're on it, because we keep chasing the ball around for so long. It's so hard, and then so in a playoff, if we had a two-legged game, quick succession, I feel like we could fancy our chances. But that's another question for another day. To answer the question about favourite away day, I think my answer is going to surprise quite a few people. It's actually, for me, it's like a long way clear. Eastleigh away last season. I don't know what it was about Eastleigh last season, but obviously we hadn't won there. And the atmosphere and the noise in that little stand, that covered metal stand, I've never it was unreal, the noise being generated in there. Like, being part of that, obviously we stood for, obviously I love the away days. I've missed that this season a little bit. There's so many that you stand for in non-league. You stand up for the full 90. That's what it was like at Eastleigh, and that was an unreal away day. This season, I'm not gonna lie, they haven't been as good. Crewe was particularly poor for an away day, I think. But that, again, that's a question for another day. We'd love to hear your uh, favourite away day. So if you could comment them below, would be amazing. On to Wrexham then. That's another away game. Sticking on the theme of away games, obviously last season started really well, ended really badly. What are your hopes for this weekend? Another trip to Wales as well, so a very Welsh week this week.
Yeah, you're right. It's another trip to Wales. But yeah, look, I want to beat them. There's a lot. It feels like there's still a lot riding on it because of last season. That'll feel the same way anytime we meet them in the future. Last season will always be referred back to, so there's no point trying to ignore that. They'll want to beat us. Their fans will be up for it. We've got another sold out away end. It's a big occasion. Honestly, it is. There's no beating around the bush with that. You already know what to expect. Even if you didn't go last season, you know what to expect. There's not too much love lost between the two. There's a bit of, I won't say a rivalry. I just don't think the two clubs particularly like each other, even though they you have all that mutual respect online in terms of fan bases and groups of players. I don't think there's too much love for each other, so it'll be something that feels like a bit of a derby. And look, we've been to Wales last night. We've conquered one team there. Hopefully, we can go and do the same. If we can do that, I don't think there'll be too many Maynard doubters after that. Hopefully, not anyway. But it's like you said, we know what to expect. It's going to be loud. It's going to be rowdy. It's going to be a good atmosphere, and I just think we've got. Before last night, I would have said probably we haven't got no chance, and after last night, I feel like we've got a very good chance because if you turn up and play like that, I think now we've got that unpredictability about us in terms of how we're going to set up because we went to a 4 last night and it worked, but we can go back to a 5, and honestly, I'll be happy with either because what Stu showed last night is the fact that he can get it right, and when he does get it right, it can work very well. So I don't think there'll be too many doubters when the team lineup comes out at 2 on Saturday, and let's see what happens come 5:30.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there about doubters, and I think it's important that we mention. We're obviously extremely positive after last night, probably because it's felt like ages since we've had positive results to talk about. Even though we've had a couple of good wins over Christmas and stuff, it felt a little bit different last night. But to say that old phrase again, we've heard quite a few times this season. We can't get too high of the highs and we can't get too low of the lows. So, I've seen people mention the pod we did last week or some of the tweets we've put out saying we're worried and saying, why were you worried? I don't think one result changes anything. It changes something, but it doesn't change everything. That's the key thing. And likewise, if we go to Wrexham this weekend and we get beat, a team, I think they've got the best home record in the league, so they've got every right to back themselves to beat us. They beat us last season, or they beat us this season as well. If we do get a negative result there, or we don't get a win, or we don't even get a point, it's not the end of the world. It's not, one result doesn't dictate how it's going to go. And I think that last week's episode earlier this week actually. Sorry, I'm losing track of time. Earlier this week, that episode was done as an accumulation of negative results. We'd never come on here after a loss. One loss, if we'd won 10 in a row and lost one, we wouldn't come on and go, oh, this is awful. But it was an accumulation. And last night feels like a turning point. But quite easily, we could go to Wrexham this weekend and get beat. But the great thing about the result last night is if we go to Wrexham, and even if we only get a point, say we get a draw, that feels like we're on a little bit of a run then. I know it's only 2 games, but that would feel like the start of a run. One man that we might see, we might not see, we're not sure, Alassana Jatta. His visa was accepted this week, approved. What was your reaction to seeing that news?
Well, obviously happy. I think everyone kind of was. He feels like a very exciting player already without kicking a ball, just because of the stuff you see online. I saw a few tweets in the week, saying that he's being hyped up to be something that he just probably won't be. And I don't think that's the case. I just think, it's very rare in a season that you'll sign a Gambian forward. So you have to enjoy that. It's very few and far between. But I think after watching us last night, you can certainly see how Jatta's going to fit in. You can certainly see that there's a plan for him. He's not going to just be that guy who comes off the bench at, the last 10 minutes of a game. Some games we will settle to play around him. I have no doubt about that. But you forget with him, he's from what you see on the clips, he's agile, he's strong, big, can score goals. And, when you go for a 4-3-3, Jatta can easily play down the middle of that. If you're going to play, your Maccas and your Jones either side, I think, any striker's bound to score when you've got them two around you. What does that mean for Didsey? Why can't he play in the 10? Why he could still play up front? Jatta's not going to start every game. So there's obviously there's clear visions and plans, and I think it's very exciting to be a supporter right now. And what you said there as well with a good win, a good result, or a win on Saturday, and it feels like we're putting a run together. And I absolutely agree. How many people? If we come away with 6 points on this week, how many people would have predicted that off the run that we was on? Probably not many. If you did predict that, you probably are living in a fantasy world. But at least that fantasy world became a reality. So, look, I think there's so much to be excited for the end of the season, and I know this sounds a bit. It sounds almost too good to be true after the episode we recorded in the week, but one win, and not even just one win. It weren't like it was a fluke. It was domination from minute 1 to 90. Every tactical change worked. Every player looked fantastic, and I do want to say, before we conclude the episode, I do want to say an absolutely massive, massive, massive shout out of praise to Carl Cameron. A lot of people, and to be fair, including myself, sometimes this season have thought, some games he's just not been like the same kind of leader we had last season. But last night he played at left back, a position he hasn't played once this season. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, absolutely fantastic from minute 1 to 90. Deserves a lot of praise, and hopefully this will continue for him because, since I've been a supporter of the club, which has almost been a decade now, he's been by far one of the best leaders we've had in terms of how he manages himself off the pitch and when he's on the pitch, to be fair as well. So he deserves a lot of praise. And yeah, last night was absolutely fantastic.
100%. And I'm glad you mentioned him, and I echo your thoughts there. And I'm glad you also mentioned the bench about Jatta. And I think it's a nice time to bring in Adam Chickson. Just a very quick mention for him that he's back in the squad. And I think that'll be a huge boost for us. It'll push Cammy on to perform at left back, and it gives us another option at left back to possibly bring him in. Also, another shout out for Lucien Mahovo on the bench. Picked ahead of 2 senior centre backs, and whether that's due to injury, we don't know. There's nothing been said on that, but I think the fact that he's involved in the first team squad is massive for him and also for the club, bringing through another young player. We've seen James Sanderson break into the first team this season. Hopefully, Lucien Mahovo, I know we've seen him in and around the first team a few times, but he feels like he could be one that he's got the attributes to do really well for us. Talking of the bench and the team, let's get into the predictions then. How do you think we're going to line up? And what are your score predictions, and how do you think the game is going to go?
Well, I think we'll go unchanged. I don't think you'd be right to change that. I don't think off of one clip of one game we've set up in that way, I don't think there's enough time for Wrexham to fully prepare for it. So going unchanged into a game like this is not the worst idea in the world. What I will say about the benches now, when you change this and you change your shape and there's not a place for Aaron, so he has to come off the bench, and there's Sam Austin and Jim and Junior's back on the bench now. And you can have whatever opinion you want about the players like Junior and Jim, but they both offer threats and, the ability to change games in their own right. So you have to respect that. But I feel like last night was the first time in a long time where I looked at the bench and I thought, okay, there's quite a few players that can change this game in their own right. It sounds crazy to say because we've not really seen him much this season, but you can never rule Adam Chickson out of a goal if you needed a player to pop up with one after what we saw from him last season. So from the 5 players that came on last night in Chickson, O'Brien, Austin, Marias, and Aaron. I don't think that's about 5 players you can bring on, to be honest. Obviously, it's still not. You look at who we have out in Kedwin, Badge, and Matty, and then you know it could always be stronger. But in comparison to what we've had in recent weeks, where we've had 3 or 4 defenders, a goalkeeper, and Sanderson or whoever it may be, Austin sometimes as your solo attacker, and you'd only bring one on. I think last night was a very good indication that we're starting to get bodies back. And you look towards March now, and hopefully we'll see Kedwin not before too long. And again, when you play 3 up front, Kedwin can 100% play either on the left or as a striker as well. So we're coming towards a favourable, like we said, a favourable run, and we're starting to get a lot more bodies back. We've obviously got a big body coming in from Denmark, so there's a lot to be excited for. As for Saturday, I just think there's the fact that we did that last night and it looked so convincing. I just don't know how a Wrexham camp can set up for this in a way, because you don't know how we're going to line up, and that's the best part. Again, that was one criticism for Williams. I guess any team knew how he's going to line up. He never reverted from his 5 back, no matter if it was right or the wrong thing to do. Now we've got an option, and fair play to Stu. He clearly wanted that to be the case. There's clear unpredictability about us now, and he's got options now as well. We've got a decent bench. We've got a lot of bodies back, like we've mentioned. Even last night, Macari, his first game in a while, really. He mentioned himself. He's had a few problems, but absolutely faultless again. And it was very good to see him back. Just a very strong tackler for a right back, and that's what you got to enjoy about him. So, as for my score prediction for Saturday, I'm going to go. I'll go 2-1 either way. Again. It's not sitting on the fence. It's just that I know Wrexham haven't been on greatest of form, but they are the kind of team that will turn up for a good occasion. But I feel like after watching us last night, there's absolutely no way that we're going there with 0 chance of winning the game. You've always got a chance no matter what kind of form you're on. But last night, what I saw was a different not side who looked hungry, looked a bit angry in terms of how they performed recently, and that's that book closed now, and you've got to move on. I think every single player will be up for it, so I do not see a world where we can't go and win. So that's why I go 2-1 either way.
Yeah, no, I love it, and it's crazy what a difference a week can make, or even a few days. The squad already looks healthier. We've still got Colquitt as well to come in, and Jatta as well, and hopefully Scott, might be back by the end of the season. So all of a sudden you've got 3 attacking-minded players coming into that squad. Adam Chickson back in the squad. Your team looks a lot better all of a sudden. So I think that's brilliant. That is brilliant news for us, and I think you've summed the game up really well there. I think you've also mentioned the move to the back 4, and I think huge credit has to go to the management team. It wasn't overnight. We saw in the last 20 minutes of games them trying the back 4 out pretty much in all the games they've had so far. So it's clearly something they've identified before joining us. They've identified that we need to maybe not move to a back 4, but we're probably going to now. But they need to be able to use a back 4, which is something we haven't been able to do, and gives us more flexibility and gives us more unpredictability. And that's another brilliant point you've raised, and I love that, the fact that they are not going to be able to prepare as diligently, because you never know, we might throw a curveball, we might move to a back 5 again, and they might spend the whole week preparing for a back 4, and all of a sudden we're back to a back 5. That uncertainty, that seed of doubt is going to be in their mind now. In terms of a score prediction, I'm going to go 2-2. Another draw. I predicted, but I'm going to go 2-2. I think we've got a much better chance, like you said, and I'd probably take that now if you offered it me. But I hope that your prediction of 2-1 our way will happen. Just before we wrap up, if you made it this far, thank you. On Spotify, we're only a few followers away from 100 followers now. If you could also give us a review, a rating, it takes a few seconds to do. Obviously, 5-star would be amazing, but rate it how you see fit. But if as many of you as possible could give us a review on Spotify, that would be amazing. As usual, I'll hand over to you to sign us off.
Yeah, look, obviously what Tom said is absolutely spot on. The more reviews, the better. We would appreciate, obviously, the 5-star. But like he said, rate it honestly. hopefully we're not doing too bad of a job to get anything under a 5-star, but you just never know in this world. And one more thing I'd like to say is as well, it's not just the online love that we're feeling, like especially last night, but also in previous games, the amount of people that you have come up to you and saying, "Oh, we're loving the podcast, we're enjoying it, etc., etc." Like, it is very much appreciated. I didn't expect it to have taken off quite as well as we have recently. Whether we've got a good core of viewers now on both platforms, and the subscribers and followers will obviously keep growing. But yeah, if you are one of those people that have approached me during or before, after games about the podcast and praised it, just know it's very much appreciated. And yeah, just hopefully you keep enjoying it. And obviously Tom's handed over to me to sign off, so we can do it properly. Obviously, thank you for watching. Long may, obviously, last night's result is something to build off, and long may that hopefully be built off. And yeah, as always, keep supporting the pod, and come on, you pies.